You haven't messed up. You haven't lost your way. And the cosmos isn't putting you through trials. It's getting you ready. I understand what it's like when your world seems to crumble all at once. When the dreams that felt so solid start dissolving. When the people you relied on begin to fade away. When the foundations you constructed slowly start to shake. You convince yourself it's temporary. Then you question whether you've lost your direction. Then fear takes over. There's this voice in your head that starts whispering doubts. Maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I aimed too high. Maybe I should have stayed where it was safe. And suddenly, every setback feels like evidence that you were foolish to believe in something bigger. Every closed door feels like the universe telling you to give up. Every silence feels like rejection. But here's what's really happening in those moments. Your energy field is upgrading itself, and just like when you update software on your phone, everything has to shut down temporarily before the new version can run. The difference is, with consciousness upgrades, you don't get a progress bar showing you how much longer the process will take. You don't get a notification saying installation complete. You have to trust the invisible process. But what if nothing is going wrong? What if something is being reorganized? What if what appears to be a setback is actually divine reconfiguration? What if the person you need to become to receive your desires is finally starting to surface, and everything that can't match this new energy is being cleared from your path? This is what nobody explains about creating your reality. When you start resonating at a different level, even just a little, the universal field starts restructuring your existence to align. And that restructuring often appears chaotic. You sense you're going backwards. You feel your dreams slipping away. But what's actually dissolving is the old version of yourself that no longer fits your emerging destiny. Think about a caterpillar in its chrysalis. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. From the inside, everything is dissolving. The caterpillar doesn't gradually grow wings. Its entire structure breaks down into what scientists call imaginal soup before reorganizing into something completely new. That soup stage? That's where you are right now. You're not becoming a better caterpillar. You're becoming something that can fly. The uncertainty, the letdowns, the unease, these aren't forms of punishment. They're signals that reality is shifting your outer world to match the energy you've been summoning. This isn't being off course. This is forward movement. But here's what makes this process so confusing. Your logical mind keeps trying to make sense of it using old patterns. It's like trying to understand a symphony by analyzing each note in isolation. The mind wants linear progress. Step 1, step 2, step 3. But consciousness evolution happens in waves, in spirals, in quantum leaps that don't follow the rules your ego understands. It's painful, though. I won't sugarcoat that. The hurt of releasing what once felt secure. The difficulty of believing in the unseen. The sorrow of transforming into someone unknown while not fully understanding who that is. It's confusing because you're not simply releasing goals. You're releasing ingrained patterns. You're releasing the aspect of yourself that learned to survive by gripping tightly. The aspect that equated struggle with value. The aspect that viewed rest as giving up. These patterns run deep. They're not just thoughts. They're energetic imprints stored in your cellular memory. They're the reason why, even when you consciously want something different, your body might still vibrate at the frequency of the old story. Your nervous system has been trained to recognize safety in struggle, love in chaos, worth in proving yourself over and over again. So when the field starts calling you toward ease, toward flow, toward receiving without earning, Every survival alarm in your system starts ringing. Your body interprets peace as danger because it's unfamiliar. Your nervous system mistakes stillness for stagnation because it's been conditioned to equate movement with progress, even when that movement was just running in circles. And that aspect doesn't exit peacefully. It holds on. It bargains. It fights back. Not because it's harmful, but because it's afraid. It wasn't built to flourish, it was built to shield you. But shielding isn't what you require now. What you require now is faith. You're not trapped. You're simply floating between versions of yourself. You're positioned at the threshold between who you've always been and who you're evolving into. That space feels uncomfortable because it's unknown. Your familiar strategies don't function here. Your old thinking can't accompany you here. And the universe, the field, it understands this. So it holds space. It waits for you to become unified. Not just emotionally, but energetically. Because the field doesn't react to your wishes, it responds to your energetic signature. And when that signature contains conflict, with desperation masked as positive statements, with force disguised as planning, the field cannot manifest. Here's something most people don't realize. The field is always responding. It's not like it's sometimes on and sometimes off. It's not like it's waiting for you to get your act together before it starts working. It's responding to whatever signal you're broadcasting right now. If you're broadcasting confusion, it mirrors confusion. If you're broadcasting fear disguised as excitement, it mirrors that mixed signal. If you're broadcasting trust, even quiet trust, even uncertain trust, it mirrors that too. The key is understanding that your signal isn't just your thoughts or your words. It's the sum total of your being in any given moment. Your body language, your breath patterns, the tension you hold in your shoulders, the way you move through space, the quality of your sleep, how you treat yourself when no one is watching. That's why nothing appears to work when you're pushing too intensely. Because effort and energy is frequently resistance wearing a mask. You're not meant to bulldoze your way ahead. You're meant to sense your way into harmony. That harmony doesn't emerge from flawless practices. It comes from becoming quiet enough to notice where you're losing energy, where you're questioning yourself, where you're giving away your peace to some future moment. That's where readiness starts. Not in your dream boards, not in your task lists, but in the gap between your thoughts. The calm beneath the striving, the slow inhale that whispers, "Even though I can't see it clearly, I know transformation is happening." And here's what's beautiful about this process. You don't have to figure out how to stop leaking energy. You just have to notice where it's happening. Awareness itself begins the healing. When you observe without judgment, when you witness your patterns without trying to immediately fix them, something magical happens. The observation changes the pattern. This is quantum mechanics in action, the observer effect working through your consciousness. Maybe you notice you give your power away every time someone questions your choices. Maybe you realize you've been holding your breath, literally and metaphorically, waiting for permission to fully live. Maybe you discover you've been operating from a deep belief that you have to earn love, earn success, earn the right to take up space in this world. Just noticing these patterns begins to dissolve them. What if this isn't a holdup? What if this is precisely when your energy is settling into a new reality? What if this is the cleansing before the integration, the trimming before the flowering? What if the universe isn't blocking your path, but creating space for your authentic self to step forward? The one who can embrace the life they've been requesting without crumbling beneath its weight. That's not a trial. That's confidence in motion. That's the field doing its greatest work, mirroring your preparedness. So no, you're not being disciplined. You're being positioned strategically. You're being softened in all the areas where fear made you rigid. You're being cleared of the chaos that kept you pursuing what was never meant to remain. You're being freed from the illusions that convinced you that you weren't ready, because now you absolutely are. And I recognize this phase doesn't feel enchanting. It feels exposed, isolated, unsure. But this liminal space, this sacred discomfort, is the gateway to transformation. The instant your old narrative becomes too limiting and your new narrative hasn't completely taken shape. It's the breath before the jump, the quiet before the change, and it's where your genuine strength begins to emerge. Because when the field senses that you're no longer attempting to rush your way into harmony, but are willing to exist within the space it's creating for you, it responds, not from duty, but from resonance. It begins to craft a reality that mirrors your new center, your new stillness, your new authenticity. So if things feel shaky right now, allow them to be. If things feel sluggish, dense, or unclear, have faith in it. It means you're entering the phase of the process that matters most, the transformation. And the field, aware as it is observing, listening, adjusting to your next frequency. Because something within you has already changed, and now reality is simply catching up. Let's continue this journey together. There's a false belief that the cosmos sends challenges to test your worthiness. But the quantum field doesn't challenge. It mirrors. It doesn't need to evaluate your power. It reflects your transmission. And when that transmission changes, even slightly, everything constructed on your previous frequency starts to dissolve. Not from harshness, but from harmony. The field doesn't wonder, "Are you prepared?" It listens to your energy and responds, "I sense you. Let me mirror this." And that mirroring isn't always instant. Sometimes it appears like things deteriorating before they improve. Not because you're struggling, but because your old foundation is being rebuilt. Your external circumstances always follow behind your internal resonance. So when you shift your emotional foundation, when you stop transmitting from worry, from lack, from insufficiency, the field pauses. It doesn't penalize you, it recalibrates. And that recalibration is what most people incorrectly label as being challenged. Let's be precise. You're not being assessed, you're being enhanced. And every enhancement requires a release. Just as the body eliminates toxins during recovery, your energy field releases what no longer fits. Old patterns, connections, beliefs, identities, all start to fall away. And the gap between releasing and receiving the new, that's where most people experience fear. That's when anxiety returns. Because the mind dislikes emptiness. It wants to fill it with narratives, with blame, with schedules. But the field embraces emptiness because emptiness is possibility. Emptiness is clear signal. Emptiness is where the birth of new reality occurs. Most of us have been conditioned to fear the void. We've been taught that emptiness means something is wrong, that silence means we're being ignored, that space means abandonment. But in quantum terms, emptiness is the most creative state there is. It's the field of pure potential before it collapses into specific experiences. It's the pause between the lightning and the thunder, pregnant with possibility. When you can learn to rest in that emptiness without immediately trying to fill it, something profound happens. You stop being at the mercy of circumstances and start becoming the space in which circumstances arise. You stop needing things to be different in order to feel okay, and you start radiating the frequency that naturally attracts what's aligned. This is universal truth. Every time you broadcast a new resonance, you are communicating to the field what you're prepared for. If you're finding value in this understanding, hit that like button and subscribe. This kind of awareness changes everything. And if your external life doesn't match that resonance yet, it starts to transform. But first, it must disassemble what doesn't belong. That disassembly isn't destruction, it's alignment. You're not losing what belongs to you. You're losing what cannot accompany you. And yes, that can appear chaotic. Because anything you once held onto for identity, anything you once required to feel secure, is being examined by your new resonance. This is why manifestation frequently arrives after the turbulence, not before it. Because the turbulence loosens what you wouldn't have released willingly. It extracts you from old cycles, relationships, careers, locations, timelines, not to harm, but to prepare, to create room, to clarify your signal. Think about it this way. If you're tuning into a radio station, you need to find the exact frequency. If you're even slightly off, you get static, interference, mixed signals. The universe isn't trying to frustrate you when things feel chaotic. It's helping you find your precise frequency by showing you what doesn't match. Every piece of turbulence is feedback, telling you where your signal needs refining. Sometimes this means releasing relationships that were built on the old version of you. Sometimes it means leaving environments that can't hold your new energy. Sometimes it means walking away from opportunities that look good on paper, but feel wrong in your body. This isn't loss. This is liberation. This is your energy field becoming so clear and strong that it can no longer tolerate what's not aligned. Because when your signal is pure, the field encounters no resistance. It doesn't hesitate. It mirrors. But until that coherence establishes itself in you, until your essence becomes more peaceful than your thoughts, the field waits. Not from postponement, but from dedication. It waits for you to stop forcing. It waits for you to stop pretending. It waits for your frequency to stop wavering between uncertainty and confidence. Because the field doesn't manifest based on language. It manifests based on vibration, and vibration reveals truth. So when things dissolve, don't wonder, why is this happening to me? Wonder, what is this creating space for? Don't assume dismissal. Assume redirection. Don't fight the quiet. Learn to listen within it. Because the silence between realities is where destinies are rearranged. And if you can maintain your center through that silence, if you can stay unified while everything unravels around you, the field has no option but to meet you in the new frequency. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains that the quantum field mirrors your internal condition. But it's not a static mirror. It's conscious. It's alive. It perceives your fear. It perceives your confidence. It perceives when you're acting. And it perceives when you've genuinely let go. When you no longer require the result to feel complete, that's when the result starts to materialize. When you stop clutching and start grounding, reality shifts. But grounding requires presence. It requires stillness. It requires bravery to sit in the unknown and declare, "Even here, I have faith." Because the instant you stop attempting to repair, demonstrate, or manipulate your reality, your frequency becomes calm. And in calmness, there's clarity. And in clarity, there's connection. And in connection, manifestation stops being something you pursue and becomes something you harmonize with. So no, you're not failing because things are dissolving. You're succeeding at a depth your ego cannot comprehend. You're becoming resonant with the life you once had to envision. You're becoming the version of yourself who no longer needs to question if it's working because you already sense the transformation in your being. That's the moment the field takes you seriously. That's the moment it stops responding to your actions and starts responding to your essence. And that essence, your true nature, is not attempting to force the future. It's welcoming it. Allow that to settle in. In the upcoming minutes, we'll examine how the interval between old and new is not vacant at all, but filled with quantum movement, and how learning to embrace the gradual pace is exactly what activates the next version of you. Ready to go deeper? There exists a space between releasing and receiving, a peculiar, quiet space where nothing appears to be occurring. You've completed the inner work. You've experienced the shift. You've surrendered, and then silence. No indicators, no proof, just void. But that void isn't an error. It's not a postponement. It's the recalibration chamber where destinies are rewritten, not by what you do, but by who you're becoming. Most people confuse this space with failure. They panic, they withdraw, they push harder, they unearth the seed to check if it's sprouting. But the quantum field doesn't reward impatience. It responds to coherence, and coherence demands stillness. That's why this moment, this uncomfortable, invisible, unglamorous period, is the most crucial part of the journey, because it reveals whether you trust your frequency or merely perform it. You're not trapped, you're suspended, floating between timelines. The previous one is fading. You sense it. The new one isn't present yet. You feel it. But something within you already understands. This space is holy. This is where the subconscious reprograms itself. This is where emotional patterns dissolve. This is where your system stabilizes in a new identity before reality reflects it. And yes, it feels odd, like being nobody, like not knowing what comes next. That's because your identity is shifting. You're no longer who you were, but you're not yet fully who you're becoming. There's a term in psychology called liminality, the threshold space between what was and what will be. It's the space of transformation, and it's inherently uncomfortable because none of your familiar reference points exist here. You can't navigate this space using your old maps. You can't solve its challenges with your previous strategies. You have to learn to move by feel, by intuition, by the subtle inner compass that's been recalibrating itself throughout this entire process. In ancient cultures, this liminal space was honored as sacred. Vision quests, initiations, rites of passage, all were designed to help people navigate the death of one identity and the birth of another. But in our modern world, we've lost these frameworks. We've been taught to fear the in-between, to rush through it, to medicate it away. We've forgotten that this space is where miracles happen. This is what spiritual growth feels like. Not fireworks, but integration. Not revelations, but consistency. The field is observing, not with sight, but with resonance. It's listening to the quality of your silence. It's sensing the shape of your vibration when you're not trying. Because when you stop pushing, your authentic frequency emerges, and that's the one that creates. Neville Goddard named it the Sabbath, the period of rest between assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled and witnessing it manifest. He said, "If you persist in the assumption, it will harden into fact." But persistence isn't effort. It's vibrational consistency. It's when you stop needing proof and become the proof. It's when you stop seeking outside confirmation because your body already contains the answer. So if you feel like nothing is progressing, excellent. It means something deeper is aligning. It means the surface is quiet because the foundation is shifting. It means your system is learning how to hold the new without collapsing into the old. It means your timeline is recalculating in real time, and your sole responsibility is to remain coherent. But coherence isn't perfection, it's authenticity. Can you stay present without attempting to escape the discomfort? Can you hold the frequency of trust without evidence? Can you allow the timeline to form around your being instead of chasing it through force? This is the quantum pause. The field is waiting for you to stabilize before it manifests. It's waiting for your signal to become consistent enough to create. And that consistency isn't measured in intensity. It's measured in ease, in peace, in how gently you hold the vision, in how little you need to grasp it. Because the more you grasp, the more you communicate to the field, I don't believe it's real. And the field reflects that belief, not your words. So stop grasping, start anchoring, start living the vibration of completion. Start moving like it's accomplished. Not for the field, for you. Because when your nervous system finally believes it's safe to receive, the field responds instantly. This is where the breakthrough exists. Not in the doing, but in the being. Not in the outcome, but in your readiness to hold it. That readiness isn't proven by rituals or mantras. It's proven by your emotional neutrality. When the outcome no longer defines your worth, that's when it arrives. When your joy isn't delayed until it happens, but accessed now, that's when it manifests. When you stop bracing for disappointment and start living from alignment, that's when the new timeline locks in. The quantum isn't slow, you're just still stabilizing. Let it take the time it needs to match the precision of your request. Let the unseen rearrange. Let the silence speak. Let the space you're in, no matter how uncomfortable, become your training ground for trust. Because trust is the energy that collapses reality faster than anything else. In the next section, we'll explore how to move through this recalibration phase without self-sabotage. How to stop interpreting discomfort as failure and start recognizing it as a symptom of deep alignment. Are you ready to shift how you walk through the unknown? Then let's continue. By now, you've likely noticed a pattern. The more you attempt to force change, the more resistance you encounter. The more you chase the next step, the more it eludes you. That's not failure, that's feedback. Because the quantum field doesn't operate under pressure. It moves in response to resonance. And resonance emerges not from urgency, but from surrender. But surrender has been misinterpreted. It's not quitting. It's not passivity. It's choosing coherence over control. It's deciding moment by moment to trust the timeline your soul already selected, even if your mind doesn't comprehend it yet. That's genuine power. And it's that power that stabilizes your field. So how do you collaborate with the quantum when everything feels misaligned? First, you stop interpreting discomfort as danger. Most of what you label fear is simply unfamiliarity. You're not frightened because something is wrong. You're frightened because something is different. Because you've begun to emit a new frequency and your nervous system hasn't adapted yet. That's not sabotage. That's integration. Allow it to occur. Second, you stop asking, "How do I fix this?" and start asking, "What part of me is still resisting this?" Because attempting to fix what the field is already rearranging only adds static to your signal. The more you interfere, the more you postpone. But when you breathe, soften, release, you become magnetic. Not because you're doing more, but because you're finally still enough to receive. This is where Abraham Hicks provides a clarity that cuts through confusion. You cannot be in receiving mode and resistant mode simultaneously. It's not about intensity, it's about allowing. And allowing isn't passive, it's incredibly intentional. It's the decision to trust that alignment functions even when you don't see it yet. And trust isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a frequency you choose, especially in the moments that feel most uncertain. That's when the universe listens most closely. Not when you perform trust, but when you embody it. So what does that look like practically? It looks like awakening and not asking what's missing, but what am I radiating? It looks like observing your thoughts without believing all of them. It looks like noticing the tension in your chest and softening instead of spiraling. It looks like maintaining the same peaceful energy whether the manifestation has arrived or not. Because the field doesn't just want to give you what you want. It wants to witness who you become while waiting. That's the preparation. That's the training. Not in punishment, but in precision. Here's what most people miss. The field isn't just responding to your desires. It's responding to your capacity to hold what you're asking for. It's one thing to want a different life. It's another thing entirely to have the nervous system stability, the emotional maturity, and the energetic capacity to sustain it. The waiting period isn't about proving your worthiness. It's about expanding your capacity. Imagine suddenly receiving everything you've asked for while still operating from old patterns of scarcity, control, and fear. You'd either sabotage it or be overwhelmed by it. The universe isn't withholding your desires. It's ensuring that when they arrive, you can actually enjoy them. It's building your capacity to receive, to hold, to steward what you've asked for. Your nervous system is the receiver. The cleaner the signal, the clearer the response. That's why things fall apart before they fall into place. Because you can't manifest from a place of internal conflict. The field won't collapse a new reality around an old vibration. It will wait patiently until you stop vibrating from memory and start vibrating from the present moment. That's the secret. And it's in the present that your future is determined. So here's a simple shift you can make today. Instead of asking for proof that it's working, become the evidence. Instead of needing a sign to feel aligned, let your alignment be the sign. Instead of waiting to feel safe once the outcome appears, become the space where safety already exists. You don't need more steps. You need more stillness. You don't need another affirmation. You need permission to feel how far you've already traveled. You don't need to do more. You need to stop resisting who you're becoming. Because who you're becoming is already aligned. You're just learning how to meet them in the field without fear. So take a breath. Let this integrate. If your path feels unfamiliar, it means you're at the edge of the old map. And that's where all new realities begin. If the silence feels loud, good. It means the field is listening. And if this message resonates, if it spoke to a part of you that's been quietly persevering, then let's mark this moment together. Share this in the comments. I trust the process. Not because it's perfect, but because it's precise. Because it's not a punishment, it's preparation. And in the next section, we'll close this journey not with answers, but with the deeper remembrance that you are not here to survive your life. You are here to step fully into the frequency you were born to carry, the one the universe has been preparing you to hold all along. Let's finish this together. By now, something within you has shifted, not because you received a new answer, but because you remembered an ancient truth. You're not being tested, you're being trusted. The universe is not watching to see if you'll fail. It's rearranging your reality to support who you're becoming. And sometimes that rearrangement feels like resistance, like silence, like pain. But it's not punishment. It's preparation. You've asked for alignment, and now the field is clearing out anything that can't sustain it. That's why it hurts. Not because you're wrong, but because you're shedding the parts of you that were never truly authentic. The expectations, the masks, the timelines you outgrew but kept clinging to. The field is precise. It only responds to truth. And when your truth becomes louder than your fear, the field moves. That's what you've been experiencing, not failure. Activation. The slow, deep emergence of coherence within you. The stabilizing of your nervous system in a new identity. The subtle calibration to a version of you that no longer needs to perform. Simply be, that's the shift. That's the preparation. Because receiving isn't about deserving, it's about readiness. The universe already wants to give you everything you've asked for. It's just waiting for your field to be clear enough to receive it. And that clarity isn't in your words, it's in your frequency, your emotional signature, your willingness to soften instead of control, to trust instead of chase, to anchor instead of prove. It's no longer about asking when it will happen. It's about living from the energy that says it's already unfolding. Because that belief, when embodied, collapses timelines faster than any ritual. You were never meant to force. You were meant to feel. You were never meant to hustle for alignment. You were meant to remember it. You're not here to earn your manifestations. You're here to resonate with them. And sometimes that resonance takes time. Sometimes it takes falling apart. Sometimes it takes sitting in the silence longer than you thought you could. But on the other side of that stillness is something powerful: stability. Not emotional spikes that burn you out, but deep, grounded, magnetic alignment. The kind of alignment that doesn't need attention because it already knows. The kind of coherence that doesn't need proof because it has already become the evidence. And when you become the evidence, reality bends. The field responds. Things begin to move again. Not because you pushed, but because you stopped. You made space. You breathed. You stayed. You softened. You surrendered without giving up. You trusted. And that trust became your signal. A signal so clear the universe couldn't ignore it. So powerful that timelines had no choice but to shift. So aligned that what once felt distant became inevitable. That's what's happening now. Right now, not someday. Not when you're more ready. Now. So if this message resonated with the part of you that's been quietly holding on, if you felt even a flicker of clarity or peace or remembering, then let this be your sign to keep going. Let this be the moment you stop chasing and start receiving. Let this be the moment you decide not to do more, but to trust deeper. Let this be the moment you anchor into the knowing. I'm not lost. I'm being aligned. And if this space, or if this frequency felt like home to you, if it reminded you of who you really are beneath the noise, then I'd love for you to stay. I hope that something in this message found you exactly when it needed to. And that's not coincidence. That's coherence. This is your season of preparation. Understanding this preparation phase is crucial, but there's something even more powerful happening when you truly let go of who you used to be. The observer effect shows us that reality shifts the moment your old identity dissolves completely, and I break down exactly how this quantum phenomenon works in your transformation.